Hey guys, it's Mason, and this is the Wrestling in the Dark podcast, the only wrestling review and recap show brought to you by a blind fan, probably. It's the Monday Mixup edition. This is where I take a look at interesting subjects from the last week in wrestling and answer any questions I might have got. On this week's Monday Mixup edition, we'll be taking a look at the return of Jon Moxley, who should win the Money in the Bank matches, and what makes a good wrestler from a blind person's perspective. If you want to find out what I've got to say this week, stick around and find out. Opening up the show this week, I want to talk about probably one of the biggest stories from last week, the return of Jon Moxley. We all knew that Dean Ambrose was leaving. A lot of us thought it was a work, me included, but as of May 1st, at the stroke of midnight, Jon Moxley, on his new Twitter account, which was Dean Ambrose's old WWE one, posted a video of him breaking out of jail. Now that is a pretty cool way to burst back on the scene, if you ask me, and a completely, I know he's Jon Moxley now, but a completely Dean Ambrose way of doing things. Now, I live with a skeptic. My girlfriend is always wary of these sorts of things, and so I am not 100% completely convinced that this isn't still a bit of a work. I wouldn't be that surprised to see him turn back up on Raw or Smackdown or something like that. But if not, if this is a genuine Jon Moxley is now back and he's on the independent scene, I'm really excited to see where he goes with it, to be honest. It was nice to have something to hype it straight away, to the minute that his contract runs out, to like post that video and just make everyone go absolutely crazy, which they did. I just think it's a really clever idea. Now, where should he go is the question, and obviously the most obvious answer, especially with what he's been teasing, is All Elite. Now, that'd be fairly interesting because they seem to have been going for certain talents that can have the type of match that the Jon Moxley violent style will work against, like Jimmy Havoc, etc. So he definitely could work there. We've seen already some WWE talent going over there. Pac, if you want to include him, but he's been gone for a good while. Jericho, obviously, is a big WWE name that's gone there, and if they could score Dean Ambrose slash Jon Moxley, that'd be a big score for them. But it's difficult with Dean Ambrose because he's the one wrestler that you could argue, I think for the most part in this sort of situation, you're like, okay, where's the biggest money, because that's where they're going to go. But Dean Ambrose really doesn't seem to care about money, but that also could just be a huge work. That could just be his kayfabe. He just might be really good at convincing us all that he doesn't care about money when he really does. So you would want to say, oh, I can't see him just going to Impact or CZW or whatever, but I actually sort of I could see him doing it. So that is going to be really interesting to see where he goes with it, to be honest. I'm looking forward to seeing him being able to cut some different style promos, to see how he changes his in-ring style up. It's just exciting news, really, and I can't wait to see where he goes. I do hope that it's All Elite, because that's the one that I'm going to end up watching. So that's really where I'd like to see him go, because it's the place where he's going to get the biggest exposure, and it's the place where I can still follow him. So that's, the return of Jon Moxley. Next up, I want to talk about who should win the men's Money in the Bank match. So, from the Raw side this year, you have Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, and Ricochet. On the Smackdown side of things, you've got Mustafa Ali, Finn Balor, Andrade, and Randy Orton. So who out of them should win? It's a fairly difficult choice, really, because there's a couple of good contenders there. There are definitely a few that I wouldn't like to see win. I wouldn't like to see Braun win again, because we've already seen that before. It wasn't good for him last year, and I just wouldn't like to see him go there again. Baron Corbin, I don't necessarily mind Baron Corbin too much. I guess he's not He's not terrible. He's not the best. Giving him the Money in the Bank briefcase might actually work a little bit, because if you had him successfully cash in, it sort of redeems him for his past mistakes. You know, it might actually repair his image a little bit, so that would be an interesting choice. Drew McIntyre I wouldn't want to see it with, because it's that Braun thing. I don't think big monster heel guys don't really need the Money in the Bank briefcase, because they can beat anyone anyway for the most part. So Drew can get into that title scene with a number one contenders match easily. If he was to be, say, put in a number one contenders match against someone like Cesaro, where he could just have a beast of a match, then he can believably go to the main event anyway, so he doesn't need the Money in the Bank briefcase. And having him be a bit of a chicken shit heel with it, I think would be would be a really, really bad choice. As for Ricochet, that one, again, could work. He's recently come up from NXT. He's actually managed to get himself over, and he will definitely get himself even more over in that match because of his cool spots, and I'm sure that he'll end up doing something insane. It wouldn't be a bad choice. That would probably be one of my top contenders. Mustafa Ali, I think, is another strong contender, because you could play off the thing with Kofi Kingston, with Kofi replacing him in the Gauntlet match, which was the thing that originally sent Kofi on his path towards the WWE title. It'd be cool to see him against Mustafa Ali, because Ali could be like, right, well, you took my place and now I'm coming for that championship. You wouldn't necessarily have to turn him heel. It could just be going after what he feels is his, the opportunity that got taken from him. I actually think that that'd be pretty cool as well. It'd be a really, really good match between Kofi and him, and would also probably help solidify Kofi as champion. If he manages to get through Owens and then he has a really cracking match with Mustafa Ali, it might actually start making Kofi look like a fairly valid champion. As for Finn Balor, he's the Intercontinental Champion at the minute. He doesn't really need something like this. If he wasn't, I'd probably say he should be one of the top picks, but you don't really, unless you're going to turn him heel, I don't think you really want him going against Kofi. So you just keep him as Intercontinental Champion and give him a good program with someone like a Lars Sullivan or something like that, and he'll be fine. I don't think he needs the Money in the Bank briefcase. Andrade, again, would probably be the third strong competitor for this. He has had some really, really good matches with Rey Mysterio. The hardcore fans and are quite, they're quite in love with him. He's made a really big impact on that hardcore wrestling fan base, and I think if he were to get the briefcase, you've got Zelina Vega there to cut promos for him. He was probably in character the most suited to it, because you've got that the cash in teases with Zelina Vega throwing him the briefcase and cheating, etc., etc. So character-wise, he's probably the best candidate, because you really don't have to change his character all that much to do it. And Randy Orton is just a straight no. I'm really not interested in seeing that. Personally, I think I would go with Mustafa Ali. I think I'd really like to see what him and Kofi could do promo-wise and in the ring together. I'd really like to see that continuation of the storyline, playing off reality, with Mustafa Ali coming back for an opportunity at the championship that he feels he was, robbed of or whatever. I don't think you have to make him heel to do that. I just think that he has to sort of be serious and have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but still be the same guy as he is. So Mustafa Ali would be my pick for this year's Money in the Bank winner. From the women's side of things, on Raw, we have Dana Brooke, Alexa Bliss, Natalya and Naomi. On the Smackdown side, we have Ember Moon, Bayley, Carmella and Mandy Rose. So let's take a look through them and see who I think should, not will, because these I should have clarified that before the men. This is who I think should, not my predictions. Right, let's take a look at the Raw side of things. Dana Brooke, I would actually quite like to see win. I know that a lot of people are not big fans of Dana, but I think it's something a little bit different. At the end of the day, you can have... She's been sort of self-aware recently. She's been coming out and cutting these promos where she's been saying about not getting opportunities and trying to improve, etc., etc. If she were to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, she's then got this thing that she can say, look, I know that I'm never going to get a match with Becky Lynch. There are women out there that are better than me, but given an opportunity, I could show what I could do, and this is my one opportunity to get against Becky Lynch. So I think that would be a fairly decent one. Even though there are probably better people, I think that would be a personal choice for me, because I think I'd quite like to see that story of someone that probably knows that they don't belong in the main event, someone knows that they don't necessarily deserve the championship, but wants it anyway, or at least just wants the opportunity. So I think that'd be pretty entertaining to watch. Natalya, again, that'd be an alright choice. She's got the lineage. Her versus Becky would be a pretty decent feud. She's been there a long time. She can switch her character up from face to heel sort of on a week to week basis, so I think that'd be pretty interesting to see what she could do with that Money in the Bank briefcase, coming out teasing her cash-ins, etc., etc. So I definitely think you can make that work. Naomi, again, I think I'm quite a big fan of Naomi. I'm not sure whether I'd like to see her with the briefcase, but I think she's the rare face that could make it work. I don't know why, but there's just something about the way that Naomi portrays her character. I can actually imagine that character with the briefcase. This is a much more difficult field for me than than with the men. I do think that she could do good things with that, especially if you maybe got like the Usos involved, etc., etc. Alexa Bliss is the one from Raw that I don't think I'd want to see it with. I'm not a huge Alexa Bliss fan. I realise that she's good on the mic and she does her character well, but she hasn't been a strong in-ring competitor for a long time now, and I'm not really interested in the moments of bliss sort of thing. She just sort of annoys me, and she's the one that I don't want to see it from. We've seen it before, and I don't want to see it again. Ember Moon from the Smackdown side of things would definitely be a good choice. She needs something to reintroduce her, to give her some more momentum, and having the Money in the Bank briefcase might be a good one for her, especially if they did choose to turn her heel. I'd be interested to see what she could do working as a heel, especially with her, Ember Moon gimmick. I think would probably work a bit better with a bit of edge, a bit of viciousness to it. So her as a heel going after Becky with that Money in the Bank briefcase would be pretty entertaining. Bayley is a fairly obvious choice. She's the one horsewoman that hasn't got too much attention over the last few months, and I would be interested to see where she could go with it. But she's sort of the Finn Balor of this sort of situation, or she can fairly easily get into that main event scene anyway. Everyone knows who Bayley is. Everyone knows how good she is. All they got to do is just put her in a good match, like I said with Drew McIntyre. They just got to put her in a good match and let her show what she can do, and then she'd be fine. So I don't necessarily think she needs the Money in the Bank thing unless they're going to turn her heel. And I would like to see a more serious Bayley, so I'd be okay with that. Carmella, we've already seen it from before. Even though I'm a huge Carmella fan, I really hope that she continues to get used and stuff, because I think that she's a really good performer. I really enjoy most of the things that she does and have done for a long time, but I definitely still think that I wouldn't want to see her with the briefcase again, because we've seen it twice or whatever before. And then finally Mandy Rose would be a decent choice. They've been trying to push Mandy for a while now to get her more established and get people either behind her or some more heat on her for quite a while. So something like that wouldn't be too bad, but I'm not sure it's where I would go. I think that I'm probably the only person in the world that would say that I want Dana Brooke to win. I really like her. I think that she's actually improved on the mic a lot. And I think storyline wise, you can have Becky facing, your more legit people on SmackDown if she's going against Bayley or she's going against Ember or Charlotte, something like that. That's fine. But on Raw, you don't necessarily need it to be the biggest name. And I think Dana Brooke would, like I say, coming across with that character of, this is my only chance. Like, I got lucky, I won the briefcase, and this is my only chance to face Becky Lynch. I think that would be a really good one. So I think I would pick Dana Brooke, but I think the one that would benefit from it actually the most would be Ember Moon, because she's been out for such a long time. I think people will have forgotten who she is a little bit, and it would be a good way of reintroducing her. So as much as I would like to pick Dana Brooke, Ember Moon would be my actual pick for who should. Plus it'd get me extra points in the fantasy draft, so that's a little bit of a bias there. Who should be the next SmackDown Tag Team Champions? So it's been announced on social media that Shane McMahon will be around on SmackDown on Tuesday to crown the new WWE SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. And it's going to be an interesting one to see what they do here. I don't think they've got enough teams to do like any sort of qualifying match. They could just announce a sort of fatal four-way, or they could just go with Shane just making someone the champions because he's now a heel, so I can see him doing that. I am not sure who I would go with here, because you've got Nakamura and Rusev, the B Team, Heavy Machinery, and that's about it. I might be forgetting someone, but with the champions, not the champions anymore, with the Hardy Boys being gone, there's not that many teams left. I think the Colognes are healthy, and people have been talking about AOP coming back soon, but I don't really see that. I think it is going to be between Nakamura, Rusev, the B Team, and Heavy Machinery. And I really don't know where I'd go with that, because I don't particularly like any of those teams. I'm almost tempted to say that I think that Shane might just make him and Elias tag team champions. I know that we've just seen that with The Miz, but he could talk about how The Miz lost them the championships, how he misses having the belt. I liked being tag team champion, so now I am with Elias or whatever, and that way Roman would have to find a tag partner to face them with, and that might actually be a really good way to go, because then Roman is not going for that main championship. If he actually were to find a decent tag partner and have a run with that tag partner, it would be a huge thing for the SmackDown Live tag team division. Imagine Roman Reigns and a new partner now that he's left the Shield, someone new. If they were to team him up with, I know it's a bit random, but if they were to team him up with Finn Balor or something like that, it'd be really interesting to see where they go. So I'm almost tempted to say Shane might just make himself the tag team champions with Elias. But other than that, I'd probably go with Rusev and Nakamura. You've got a good heel team to keep the belts off everyone, and then at least Heavy Machinery can be on the chase then, and you could get probably a decent feud out of Heavy Machinery and Rusev and Nakamura. I'm not really interested in seeing the B Team. We're not going to get any spectacular competitions or promos out of those two. As much as I like Bo and Axel, you're not going to get anything amazing out of them. So I think I would go with Nakamura and Rusev as the new tag champs, but watch out, Shane McMahon might be about to make himself a tag team champion so that Roman Reigns can get a tag partner and fight him. Now, for the most part on this show, I'm going to stay spoiler-free. I'm never going to talk about NXT TV tapings, etc. for the most part. But I do want to talk about this. It's not a spoiler, really, because it only concerns the commentary team. So, usually on NXT, you have Mauro Ranallo, Nigel McGuinness, and Percy Watson. They've now replaced Percy Watson with Beth Phoenix. She's been doing bits and bops of commentary for quite a while now. She started off doing it in the Mixed Match Challenge, and she's come back from in the Mae Young Classic, and she's come back from time to time to come and do it. I'm not sure how I feel about her being added to NXT, especially if it's a full-time thing. Now, I know that a lot of people don't think that Percy Watson is all that special, and neither do I. I don't think he was terrible, though, either, and I don't think that he ever really detracted away from the commentary. It was never about him. He was never trying too hard to... He just never detracted from it. For the most part, he just let Nigel and Morrow do their work, and I'm not sure whether Beth Phoenix is going to be the same thing. You know, one of the things I like about Nigel McGuinness is that he harkens back to his career, but I feel like they might have quite a strong focus on Beth and what she used to do, and I just got a bad feeling about it. It would be quite interesting, though, to see if she ends up... She just got up from commentary and ended up in an angle with Tamina and Nia. Is the plan to have her face someone down in NXT? That could be a fairly interesting one. You know, you got that Alex Riley thing of a slowly bubbling feud between someone where eventually, you know, maybe like the main event, the WrestleMania takeover next year, she could be like, right, I've had it with you, we're having a match, and that could be fairly interesting, because it could really put over someone from NXT having a match with Beth Phoenix. But I just hope that she doesn't talk too much on the commentary, because she's got quite a small voice. I think she always struggles to project, and I always have to listen extra hard for her, and I feel like they're going to try and give her more of a part than what they gave Percy Watson, and his part was perfect, because he only really chimed in every now and again, and it was never, you know, anything poignant or important, but it was never anything that I was like, oh, just go away, Percy. So I'm excited to see how different the commentary feels with her on it. I'm a bit wary, because like I said, I don't want the focus to be on her more, and I'm not sure whether she's going to struggle calling that style of match or anything like that. I'm really comfortable with the NXT commentary team as it is. I think it's got nothing to do with Beth Phoenix. I'm just a little bit wary of it changing, because I don't want my experience to be less or lessened. So that's Beth Phoenix now replacing Percy Watson on commentary. Next up last week, Gustavo Gama. I'm sorry if that's not how you say your name, but that's how my talkback reads it. But Gustavo Gama pointed out to me last week that it's a little bit awkward that in NXT UK, they've got the NXT UK tag champs and the women's champ as NXT UK, but the main belt that's now on Walter is the WWE United Kingdom Championship. And he said that that's a bit awkward, and wondered if they will ever change that, and I hope that they do. I'm not sure that they will, because I think that it might just be they've got a lineage to that belt now, especially with Pete Dunne's title reign. It's been, you know, it's gone a long way to sort of establishing that belt. It's the one that they brought, that they made with the original United Kingdom tournament. So it's got the press out there. People know about it. I feel like you're starting again at square one if you change it to the NXT UK champion. But at the same time, it does create that synergy. It would all be the same, not quite as jarringly different. So I do find it quite interesting. I think that if they ever did it, it'd be when they want to actually change the look of the belt. So maybe when someone drastically different gets the belt, when, you know, whoever takes it off Walter or just somewhere down the line, when they want to give someone a new, better looking belt or whatever, it might change to the NXT UK Championship then. But for now, I think it'll probably stay as the United Kingdom Championship, because, like I said, they've got the reputation there, they've got the lineage there, and I feel like, even though it would be the same championship, because it's still on the same brand, I think people would think of it as a different one, the same way that people think of, like, you know, the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship, etc., as different belts. I think people would think of the United Kingdom Championship and the NXT UK Championship as two different ones. So you're sort of starting again at square one with that not having too much prestige. But I would like to see it happen down the line, just so that it can all be the same branding. But thanks for that question, Gus. It was a nice one. I had to think it over for a while. Chris Jericho making more of a splash in the indie scene at the minute. What a career this guy is having outside of WWE. How amazing is it that he had a greatest of all time performance in WWE? He's one of the names that people have always and will always know. He's just one of the most well-known people that's managed to keep themselves relevant all this time, all through the Attitude Era, all through the Ruthless Aggression Era, and kept himself relevant until a couple of years ago when he left and started doing the New Japan stuff. And it's just so cool that he's getting this sort of late career renaissance. As my indie correspondent Glenn pointed out, he's doing what people do now before they go to NXT. He's doing it in reverse. He's already made himself a star, and now he's doing what people do before they go to NXT. And I just think that's amazing. It's amazing for the indie scene. It's amazing for Jericho. Last week he had a face-off with Kenny Omega at some indie show that my friends were very keen to tell me only had at least 10 people in the crowd. They said it was more like 100 or so. Just, you know, I don't know what the figures were, but it was a small crowd, and you've got to feel good for them. They probably just... They were like, okay, I'm going to take in a wrestling show tonight, and they went and paid the money, and they were just expecting a small little indie show, and then next minute Jericho and Kenny Omega are there facing off. It'd be amazing. I can't imagine that. It'd be incredible. I went to a Pro Wrestling 4U show like a couple of years ago. It's like Triple H just showing up there. It'd be amazing. My head would explode. But the latest news, the more sort of exciting one, is that as much as I am not an expert at New Japan at all, I do know certain names have made it to me, and with the announcement that Jericho is going to be taking on Okada at Dominion, I think that's the show, the Dominion show coming up. Just how incredible is that? He's faced just some of the biggest names out there going now. He's faced Omega, Naito. He's now going to face Omega, and it's just like Omega. He's facing Omega again, to be fair. That is actually a valid point. And now he's going to fight Okada, who's probably one of... I mean, like I say, there's certain names that have made it over to me, and Okada's one that I hear a lot, so I can't wait to see that match. I'm a big Jericho mark, so it's one of those things where I definitely will end up watching that match, and I just can't wait to see what Jericho can do against someone like that. I love this new Chris Jericho angry voicemail man. It's brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it, and I feel really, really good for Chris Jericho as well. Just what an amazing time it must be for him, getting to work AEW, getting to work out on the Indies, New Japan, having his band, having the cruise. He's just made it. He's just going to be an absolute legend when he eventually goes, which thankfully we've got a long time left with Chris Jericho, hopefully. So I'm so excited for this, and I feel really good for him. Chris Jericho versus Okada. And finally, I want to talk about what makes a good wrestler from my perspective. Now, there's a couple of categories really that they have to fall into that I've been sitting and thinking about. So now, obviously, the most obvious one is promos. Promos for me are probably the most integral part of a character, because that's when you hear how they deliver things. It's when you get a feel for their character, for their motivations, and anyone who's really good at promos, that just instantly gets me behind them. A recognisable moveset, I feel, is really important. Someone like Roman Reigns, as much as it can get frustrating sometimes for people and for me, at least I know what moves he's doing. You know, there's so many times, especially when I started watching NXT UK, where they'll call a move that I probably would know if they just called what the move is, but it's got a name to it, and I appreciate finishers having names. I wouldn't change that, but I just don't. Occasionally there's moves that I don't know what's happening. So a recognisable move set, someone that you know. Like, say, for example, with AJ Styles, you know he's going to pull out the springboard 450, you know he's going to pull out the calf crusher, the forearm, the Styles Clash, etc., etc. With The Miz, you know he's got the skull crushing finale. These days he uses those it kicks, the silver spoon DDT that he used to use. And with Roman, you've got like the Superman punch and the spear and the drive-by. So those, I really get into those sort of people, because if you've got a recognisable moveset, I'm more likely to know what's going on in the match, and that really gets me behind them. Good entrance music really helps as well, because that's part of the character, really. You know, you've got to have like recognisable and enjoyable entrance music, because otherwise it's just, you're bored before they even come out. It's so and recognisable entrance music too, because these days there's a lot of generic themes that could all just be anyone really. But again, going back to someone like The Miz, I really like The Miz, because I don't think anyone can really touch him on the mic in WWE. I realise that outside of WWE, there's probably a lot of people that would argue could face Miz on the mic, but I am not well versed in the indies at all. I've only just in like the last year started paying slightly more attention to it through the dirt sheets and podcasts and my friends. So I'm really not sure there, but in WWE I really don't feel like there's many people that can touch Miz on the mic. You know, things that don't matter to me, how someone looks, it really doesn't matter to me what they're, you know, everyone was obsessed with Bobby Roode's robe, but you know, that just doesn't matter to me. It's not even a factor. I don't think about it half the time. I don't think about what the people look like or what they are wearing, etc., etc. I didn't even know until recently that Ricochet was bald. I was like, what? He's bald? And so it's half the time I just really don't picture people too much, and that really doesn't matter. Luckily, in ring style doesn't necessarily matter to me, but that does come under the recognisable moveset thing. Obviously, say let's go back to The Miz. People talk about him having a safe style, a soft style, and that just doesn't really matter to me. Back when I could see, I think one of the reasons that I enjoyed wrestling back then was because I couldn't see too great, so any of the botched moves, I just didn't see it, I didn't notice it. I always said that if I noticed that they got a move wrong, then it must have gone really wrong, because my eyes like wouldn't pick that sort of thing up. But I've just completely lost my train of thought there. But it's just the in-ring thing. It doesn't really matter to me, but that's not true too, because I'm more likely, I think, I like strikers. I like Aleister Black, and I like Nakamura and AJ Styles, because I like those strikes, but that might be because they're quite recognisable. It's harder to call a move that's got, a lot to it, but it's not hard to call, a roundhouse kick or a right leg to the thigh or a forearm spinning back fist or whatever. They are easy and recognisable. So as much as, for the most part, someone like Carmella, who I know people have said has improved in ring, I was quite a fan of her even before then, because I thought that she was, a strong on the mic. I actually think that, given time, Carmella could be the female equivalent of The Miz. I think she's really, really strong on the mic. And it's quite difficult to decide whether it does or doesn't matter, because it on one hand, if someone is botching a lot and doing moves that don't look too nice, as long as they're still a strong promo and a strong character, I'm still quite likely to like them, which I think is why I root for someone like Dana Brooke as well, because she's really strong on the mic. I think she's really improved. I quite like her character, and it doesn't really matter to me whether she's the best in the ring or the worst in the ring, etc., etc. But I can't say that it doesn't matter at all. So yeah, for me, the three top things are strong promos and strong character, a recognisable moveset, and good entrance music. And that's around about it for me. I tend to go for those sort of people. And that's about all I've got to say for that. Yeah, promos, recognisable moveset, entrance music, the three things that make a good wrestler for a blind person. That's about it for that, really. All for this week. I've really enjoyed running through these subjects. I love these Monday episodes. I'm glad that people seem to be enjoying them, because I have a lot of fun doing them. Remember, at any point in the week, if you have a comment or a question for the Monday episode, just drop it down in the comments to any of the videos, and I'll try and get to it on Monday. If you want to have your say on any of these subjects, just leave a comment down below. We'll have a talk about it. We'll open a discussion and we'll be friends. So, if you've liked what you've heard, remember to hit that like button. It goes a long way, especially towards making me feel good. And if you want to keep up to date with all of my content, hit the subscribe button, hit the notify bell, become a member of the family, and you will never miss an episode of Wrestling in the Dark. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.